Hi everyone, very good evening and welcome back to CrackGradeB. So in this particular lecture, we had to talk about the business correspondent and the business facilitator model, right? But before that, yesterday we had the topic of microfinance and we are going to discuss a few of the steps that has been taken by the government as well as the NABARD for the microfinance sector, right? So first of all, we are going to quickly see that, and post that we are going to shift on to the business facilitator and business correspondent, because that is a short topic. So yes, first of all, let us see, this was the topic of our yesterday, but we have to see the steps. We are quickly going to see what have been the steps of NABARD and what NABARD and the government are doing recently for supporting the microfinance. Okay, so let's talk about it. First of all, initiatives that has been taken by the NABARD. This is from the latest report of the NABARD, right? So, scheme for the promotion of women self-help groups in the backward as well as the left-wing extremism districts of India. So, for that particular purpose, NABARD, in association with Department of Financial Services, Ministry of Finance, what they have done is they have implemented the promotion, this particular scheme of promotion and the financing of the women self-help groups in 150 identified left-wing extremism and the backward districts of the country from 2011 onwards. And as on 31st March 2023, what is the achievement of theirs? So 2.11 lakh women SHGs, they have been promoted and savings have been linked to these particular self-help groups. Now what is important for you is two things: that there is such kind of scheme which is ongoing and which is the organization under which this particular scheme is currently working, right? So yes, NABARD and the name of the scheme, what they are doing. This is important for you to know. Moving ahead to our the next thing that NABARD is doing is promotion of joint liability group, right? So this is also one of the programs of NABARD. So financing of joint liability group, it was introduced as a pilot project in 2004 and 5. Apart from extending the refinance support to the banks, NABARD also extends grant related support to the banks and other joint liability group promoting agencies so that these joint liability groups can be formed. To encourage joint liability group formation, NABARD also provides grant assistance of 2000 rupees per joint liability group in case of NGOs as joint liability group and the public sector commercial banks, and 4000 rupees per joint liability group in case of your cooperatives are there, regional rural banks are there, or the small finance banks are there, along with the private sector bank. So this is the next support that the NABARD does. Third thing which NABARD does is micro enterprise development program. This is also is running under the NABARD, right? It might seem that these are very heavy, but it is not. You just have to remember the agency as well as what are the programs that are going on. See, ultimately, these are also the steps that have been taken to improve the microfinance institutions, right? So that is why it becomes important for us to know. Micro enterprise development program. So these micro enterprise development programs, these are organized for 15 days to 30 days, 15 days for 30 participants with grant assistance of 1 lakh rupees, which is provided by NABARD support. Since its launch, these micro enterprise development programs, they have been leveraged to impart and upgrade the skills of the self-help groups so that they can set up micro enterprises. Ultimately, what we want that these self-help groups, they should be enabled so that they can start their own small little business, right? And this is the intention that we want to fulfill by opening up micro enterprise development programs. Next thing is livelihood and enterprise development program. This is the next thing that we need to see. Now NABARD has mainstreamed livelihood and enterprise development program in 2015 and 16, right, with what they wanted to do to create the sustainable livelihood among the self-help group members. So this was the intention behind starting this particular program. Now these programs, what they do is they target the self-help group clusters in the contiguous villages involved in farm, or off-farm activities, right? What they do, they provide skill building, refresher training, backward forward linkages, value chain management, etc., etc. See, basically what they want is that ultimately self-help groups should be able to what you can say transform into livelihood centers, right? They should be able to provide the business support, or let's say to any kind of skill that might be needed in order to start a new business. So this was the intention of this particular program that goes by the name of Livelihood and Enterprise Development Program. What NABARD does in it, one thing, NABARD initiated, second thing, and the name of program is all that you need to know. Next thing, so grant support is again provided to self-help groups, joint liability groups, micro entrepreneurs for the training, etc. So with the growth in the digital marketing and the e-program, this kind of support is also being provided by the NABARD, right? So this is the only thing that you need to know. Okay, the next thing is refinance support to the banks. To boost the bank credit to self-help groups, joint liability groups, right? NABARD extends the refinance up to 95% of their lending to this particular sector. NABARD's refinance towards SSG lending, it has forming 6.33% of the total refinance which is provided to the bank. So this is just a small data. Do you have to remember this particular data? Answer is no. This just gives you an analyzation of how the NABARD is supporting banks for refinancing them, that whatever investment banks are making in the what you can say self-help groups, NABARD is again providing them the support for that. That is it into it. Now next thing is initiatives by the government of India. And whenever we talk about initiatives of government of India in the sector of microfinance, there is just one thing that comes to our mind, that is National Rural Livelihood Mission. Okay, National Rural Livelihood Mission, it has been started in the year 2011. In the year 2015 it was renamed, right? What was the new name that was given to it? Was Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana National Rural Livelihood Mission. Now few of the things that the important things that the government of India is doing in it, let us discuss that as well, so that you know the name of initiatives. ठीक है, ताकि आपको initiatives का नाम पता रहे. Number one is obviously financial inclusion is our target when we talk about the Deen Dayal Upadhyaya National Rural Livelihood Mission. What we want to do, we want to create more and more self-help groups, right? So DAY and RLM, it facilitates access to affordable, cost-effective and reliable financial services for the self-help groups. Next, self-help group members has been taken as business correspondents, right? So women self-help group members, they have been deployed as the business correspondent sakhis, so that they can provide the financial services in remote to rural areas where the banking services are not that much available. तो जहाँ पे भी banking services इतनी ज़्यादा available नहीं है, वहाँ पे women have been employed as the business correspondent sakhis, right? The next thing that we have under this is Saksham. So what this Saksham program talks about, it talks about the financial literacy for the self-help groups. Objective is financial literacy of self-help groups, Center for Financial Literacy and Service Delivery. They were launched under the Deen Dayal Upadhyaya National Rural Livelihood Mission, right? So this is also Saksham mission. You should know that yes, it has been launched under DAY and RLM for the benefit of the self-help groups. Okay, the next thing is till date 6,224 blocks, around 640 districts and the 28 states that have been covered under this particular initiative. Just know the name of it. Now next thing is credit guarantee fund for the micro units. Again, this is by the government of India, and very few things you need to know about it. So dispensation under this particular fund, where collateral free loans between 10 lakh rupees and 20 lakhs, they are granted to self-help groups on or after 1st April 2020. They are eligible for the coverage of self-help groups under the Deen Dayal Upadhyaya NRLM. It was extended during 2022-23 to cover new and existing micro units, right? So over here, loans to joint liability groups up to 10 lakh extended for any sector. It has been covered under the Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana, right? And these joint liability groups, or as they have been defined under the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Act 2006. So this was the thing that we needed to know in the microfinance institutions related thing, right? What are the steps that have been taken over there? Now give me 1 minute and we are going to start the business correspondent and business facilitator section. Yes. So the topic for today is business correspondent and business facilitators, right? Why this has been envisaged. See, this particular concept is why it did came into the picture is because of the rural areas. See, bank branches, setting up the bank branches is an infrastructural investment. ठीक है, अगर आप कहीं पे मान लीजिए आप बैंक की ब्रांच खोलना चाहते हैं तो वहां पे आपको क्या करना पड़ेगा, ऑब्वियसली इन्वेस्टमेंट करना पड़ेगा. देन यू हैव टू मेक श्योर दैट दैट पर्टिकुलर ब्रांड शुड रिमेन प्रॉफिटेबल. हर जगह का आपका एक्सपेंस होता है, हर जगह का आपका एक्सपेंस लगता है, and you want to make that particular thing profitable. But sometimes in what you can say very rural hinterland areas which are very far away from the towns etc, it is non viable to open the bank branch because इतने ज़्यादा लोग नहीं होते, inavailability of so many people over there. So it is practically what you can say non advisable to open a bank branch over there. But still what we want financial inclusion. We want that every person who lives in our country should have basic financial rights, and these financial services should be available to that particular person up to their doorsteps without any particular problem. So with all of those intentions, this particular concept have came into the picture. Now we are going to see what this concept talks about. One by one we are going to see what are the scope of activities that they perform, क्या चीजें वो काम मतलब किस बात का परफॉर्मेंस है, क्या काम करते हैं, right? What are the advantages of this particular model for us? So everything we are going to see. Just wait. Yes. So banks, they deliver their financial services through a number of channels like branches, ATMs, as well as internet banking. These channels, they fall into category of traditional channels, right? Suppose I am a bank customer and if I want to withdraw the money, I can go to the ATM, right? Or I can even go to the branch, right? Suppose if I want to know what is my balance, I have these two services as well. But what if in those area, what about in those area where we do not have such kind of facilities, ठीक है, जहाँ पे हमारे पास में ये facilities नहीं है. So for such areas we have a new channel, that is a business correspondent, right? So through them bank is able to what you can say extend their services through this particular channel, right? So this new channel is followed as per the written guidelines which mandate that the banks have to be fully involved and have to be ultimate provider of services. So they act as an agent of the bank. ठीक है, किस तरीके से act करते हैं? As an agent of the bank. They do not have any authority in their hand. They are just providing the services. Now the Reserve Bank of India, it is responsible to oversee and regulate the new form of banking channel in as a part of its regulatory regime, while the responsibility of correspondence, it is going to lie with the principal banks, right? Now what is the main purpose behind this particular model of banking correspondent and business facilitator? Is to provide an effective way through which the bank can reach the unreached areas. As I have told earlier as well, that it is quite impractical to open the bank branches everywhere, right? So wherever you cannot establish a bank branch, that is where these kind of models comes into the picture to extend the services to the unserved population as well, right? In this particular model of business correspondent, business facilitator, the banks are not required to invest a heavy amount in the infrastructure of setting up the branches. As I have told you, whenever you set up an infrastructure, you want that particular setup needs to be profitable. For profitable bhi to hona chahiye. Getting my point? So over here, there is no need of putting in heavy amount in the infrastructure of setting up the bank branches, right? This way, everyone will be assured of access to banking products as well as the services of the banks. How? So wherever your banking is business is profitable, apart from that, wherever there is enough population which will need the bank branches, there you should open the bank branches. But there are areas as well where the not enough population is there and it is practically not possible to open a bank branch. There you can use the model of the business correspondent or the business facilitator, right? For this model to work, a large number of such business correspondent and business facilitators, they will be required. They are not employee of the bank. Number one, they are not the employee of the bank, but they are hired by the bank all across the country to function as their agents, right? So it is a kind of contract basis work. ठीक है? Employees नहीं होते, contract basis work होते हैं. There are payments banks sometimes as well. They are also allowed to act as a business correspondent. ठीक है? So ये जो आपके Paytm Payments Bank, Airtel Payments Bank, right? They are also allowed and they also function sometimes as a business correspondent for a big commercial bank. This is the whole structure and it will increase the reach to the poor people. Now let us see what is the eligibility to become a business correspondent or the business facilitator. What is the eligibility for it? Who can become? Who can be a intermediary between a bank and the rural population to provide the financial services to them? So as per the RBI guidelines, let us see. So NGOs, MFI who have been set up under the Societies or Trust Act, they can act as the business facilitator or the business correspondent. Societies which are registered under Mutually Aided Cooperative Societies Act or the Cooperative Societies Act of the states. This we have read yesterday as well. ये हमने कल भी पढ़ा था. These kind of societies, these are cooperative societies, but they are not cooperative banks, right? Cooperative banks does not fall in such category over here. मतलब यहाँ पे here we are talking purely about the cooperative societies which are registered under the Societies Act or the Cooperative Societies Act of the states. Next is your Section 25 companies, that standalone entities or in which NBFC, banks, telecom companies as well as the other corporate entities or their holding companies, they should not have equity holdings in excess of 10%. Right? So over here what we are saying is Section 25 companies or Section 8 companies under the Companies Act who have been formed with not with the profit orientation, right? Not for profit companies. Basically what we are talking about over here is not for profit company. They are also eligible to become a business correspondent or the business facilitator. Then we have post offices, they can act. Retired bank employees, they can also act as the business facilitators. Ex-servicemen, retired government employees, individual kirana, medical fair price shop owners or the PCO operators, agents of small saving schemes of the government like India insurance companies, which is individuals who own the petrol pumps, retired teachers. Apart from that, authorized functionaries of well-run self-help groups, which is linked to bank non-deposit taking NBFCs, right? So they are also allowed to act as a business facilitator or the business correspondent. Next is RBI has also now permitted to engage in any individual, including those who are operating common service center, as the banking correspondent as well. See, ultimately all this list is eligible to act as the business correspondent or the business facilitator, but ultimately things rests with the banks. Okay, who banks wants to employ as their agent, right? So banks are going to select as per their comfort level. Okay, that this is the person who is having, let's say, enough experience or the bank's comfort level about employing a particular person. Now next thing is appointment. So what kind of things that are checked before bank okays the appointment of a business correspondent or a business facilitator, right? So these are the things that are checked. So must be a permanent resident in which he proposed to be operate, right? That should be well established, enjoy good reputation, and have the confidence of the local people. So you see there are so many things of common service center or the kirana owners or the petrol pump owners likewise, but we cannot employ anyone and everyone as the business correspondent or the business facilitator. The bank is also going to check his or her credibility, right? Ability of business correspondent to invest in the point of sale machines, POS machines, and other equipments as well. In case of individuals selected as this banking correspondents, the criteria is minimum education qualification of 10th pass. So there is a educational qualification, field investigation for verification of residence and dealings needs to be conducted, and then there will be a credibility check as well. What is going to be the credibility check? Account with any other bank, should open an account with the bank as well. What is the base branch? So the branch of the town, wherever nearby town is, right? If you have a bank branch over there, suppose if ICICI Bank has appointed someone as a business correspondent or the business facilitator, then they should open an account with the ICICI Bank in their base branch as well. Suitable amount of security deposit, that also they have to make, and it depends on the volumes of business that is conducted, right? Because we are giving them the facility of withdrawal, etc., all of that. We are going to see that what are the activities they are going to perform. So these are the scope of activities that will be undertaken by the business correspondent or let's say business facilitator, right? And because by the virtue of the scope of activities given to him or her, there is a sustainable amount, a suitable amount of security deposit that is also collected from that particular person, right? So let us see the scope of activities which is undertaken by the business correspondent. So yes, number one function which is there is creating awareness about savings and other products, education and advice on managing money, as well as the debt counseling. Next is identification of potential customers. Who can be the potential customers for the banks? See, because you belong to the same local area, you live in that particular area, people know you as the business correspondent and the business facilitator, then you also have to work for increasing the what you can say increasing the revenues of the bank by attracting newer customers towards it. Next is collection and preliminary processing of various forms for deposits like primary information as well as data, filing of applications, account opening forms including nomination clauses as well as submission to the banks. So this is also an important thing, filling of the applications on behalf of the account holders, right? So that is also one thing that they do. Next is KYC will also be completed, know your customer norm. So you will if ever recently you have opened a bank account, you know that there is a KYC process, know your customer process, and that thing will also be completed by the business correspondent. In the KYC process, they take basic documents from you like your identification document to confirm that this is your real what you can say to check about your real existence. And then no frill deposit accounts as well as other products are also permitted from time to time by leveraging the technology. That means accounts opening, etc., this is also allowed. Collection and payment of small value deposits and withdrawals, minimum is nil, maximum 2000 per transaction. So this is, we are talking about small deposits as well as the withdrawals. So this is the limit for the deposits and withdrawals which is allowed to a business correspondent or the business facilitator to act on. Receipt and delivery of small value remittances as per the plan. Now in respect of such transaction, the business correspondent, his agent, they will be authorized to accept or deliver cash either at his place of work or at any convenient location, right? Now, furnishing of mini account statements, other account information for a period of 3 months. This is also allowed. See, whenever we visit a particular ATM or a branch, nowadays you can do that online as well. But we are talking about the rural areas. We are talking about rural banking, and that is why it becomes difficult for the people. So they provide you the services of minimum deposit, right? So there is a minimum limit that has been given. Minimum limit is nowhere, as well as maximum limit is given, that up to 2000 rupees deposits as well as withdrawal you can do. And this is one of the reasons why the security deposit is also taken from such business correspondents and the business facilitators, right? Mini account statements for a period of 3 months can be provided. Any other services on behalf of bank which is duly authorized by the appropriate authority. Anything which the bank thinks that this kind of services can be provided by the business correspondent or the banking facilitator, they can provide. Activities which are undertaken by the business correspondents, they should be within the normal course of business banks banking business, right? But conducted through by the entities at places other than the bank premises. See, whatever bank can do, only those kind of powers bank can delegate to the business correspondent or business facilitators, not more than that. The only difference is these kind of powers are not being exercised at banks branches. These are exercised by the entities which are not there in the bank branch. So this is the only difference that exists. Now next is, in respect of all such transactions, the business correspondents, his or her agent, they will be authorized to accept deliver cash either at his place of work or at any convenient location, right? As well as they will be linked to the nearby branches, that we have already saw that in order to operate as the business correspondent or a business facilitator, you need to have a link with the base branch, right? If suppose the bank tells to the business correspondent that you also have to sell the third party products, right, with which the bank has an association. Okay, sometimes bank also have the association with these kind of insurance providers or the mutual fund products, etc, etc. And if the bank says that you have to market these as well, like we have seen in one of the functions of business correspondent, that he has to market the bank as well as he has to attach the new customers as well. This is one of the objectives of having business correspondent or the business facilitators. So yes, cross selling of other financial products like insurance, mutual fund products, pension products, right, and any other third party products, this will also be done by the business correspondent if and when they are assigned to do so. And yes, if there are sub agents of business correspondent, then they will take care of reputational risk involved. For example, I have told you that payments bank can also operate as the business correspondent of any other commercial banks. They are allowed to do so. So when a payment bank is involved, see, here is a commercial bank, payments bank, and then we have a third layer of sub agents of business correspondent. So yes, it is allowed for a business correspondent or business facilitator to imply a third layer as a, what you can say, a sub agent as well, but then they have to, what you can say, remember, and they have to deal with the reputational risk. They will be responsible for all kinds of work that is being done by the sub agent. And then we have to talk about what are the advantages of these services of business correspondent and the business facilitator. So although we know about it, but yes, reading about the advantages will give us a more perspective of why we have allocated so many kinds of functions to the business correspondent or the business facilitator. Let us look at that. So alternative to bank branches. See, a normal rural bank branch, it can serve to 3 to 4,000 families up to 15 villages within a radius of 15 kilometers. And a public sector bank branch might require more than 5 years to reach the normal bank level. While a private sector or a foreign bank, even having a IT connectivity, might require about 5 times more than the public sector bank. Apart from that, permissions are also required to open, but bank a business correspondent option is very much easier process, right, or I'll say a easy channel to reach the rural people. So instead of setting up a branch, improving the services of business correspondent, it is a better option. Having a vigil over the business correspondents, what kind of work they are doing, whether the services that are being performed by them is up to the reputation of the bank or not. So this is also needs to be checked. Now next is, next we have, with the help of this model, banks can extend their financial services to areas that are beyond their network, and most of the beneficiaries of business correspondents, they are located where there are no banks. Then ultimately it helps us to provide the doorstep banking as well. They help in disbursing as well as recovering the loans at the doorstep of the beneficiaries. Then better quality of assets. So business correspondent and the business facilitators, they very well know their target clients, right? They very well know their target clients, and this acts as a reduced credit risk, right? So it improves the quality of assets that the bank has if the bank provides such kind of, see, because it business correspondent or the business facilitators gives you a real idea about the client's position. So that is also there. Now next is scaling up. Enhancing the reach to the people with the help of this model is possible within a very short period of time. So these are the benefits of this particular model, business correspondents and the business facilitators. So as we have thought that we have already discussed the initiatives that are taken by the NABARD as well as the government to, what you can say, strengthen microfinance institution. First of all, we discussed that, and then we discussed the business correspondent and the business facilitator. We have covered a sub part of financing the rural banking thing today. Now we are going to kickstart a newer topic from tomorrow. This is it for today. Thank you so much for joining in, and if you did like this particular lecture, please do not forget to give us a thumbs up. Thank you so much. Okay.